The food, then work it off.
It's like I'm seeing all the blue skies, and I'm walking on the edge tonight. It feels so right, and I'm glad you're here. Glad you're here. Rebecca Rainier.
Welcome to Full Plate. Just like the song says, my name is Rebecca Rainier, and I am so glad you're here. And I'm also so glad that Kathy is here. Welcome to the program, Kathy.
Thank
I
you.
should say Dr. Kathy, because you are a Pilates instructor, but you're also a PhD. You have all kinds of background. But we're here today to talk specifically about Pilates and our health, especially when our health is challenged. This is of particular interest to breast cancer patients and survivors.
Right.
So before we get into what you do, how did you come to be an instructor for Pilates for breast cancer patients and survivors?
Well, I did Pilates myself for quite a long time and then was asked to become an instructor, so I took the training and became an instructor. And then I took an additional training to be a breast cancer rehab exercise specialist. And I'm a survivor, so I had breast cancer.
You knew, how old were you when you had your breast cancer? How long ago was
Just
it?
5 years ago.
5 years ago, so you're 5 years out. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Absolutely. So did you do Pilates during your own experience?
I did everything during my own experience. I did weightlifting, I did all kinds of exercise, and so Pilates was a part of it, but you know, and I walked and
You
did
never
Tai Chi
stopped?
and, no,
Never
I
stopped.
in fact my oncologist said one of the reasons I did so well is because I stayed so active, and of course, and I always eat right.
You eat right.
Right.
So, I mean, I talk about Pilates a lot because I feel like it is a really great entry point for people. That it's a great entry point, especially if you have a physical challenge, or if you've not ever exercised, or if you're rehabbing, because that's how it was developed. You know, that
Right.
Pilates is something that was developed for people in beds.
Right. Right.
So talk about, but then also you can go as far as you want in it. Then you
Right.
you know get to the level where your abs are ripped and you're doing.
Right.
So it's just a really
You can get to this level.
absolute level. The Kathy totally trim level. Absolutely, that's my goal. I'll never be Kathy sized. I'll never be Kathy sized. I'll be Becky
Sorry, that
sized.
was arrogant.
No, honey, you earned it. You should be proud of it.
Thank
For
you.
sure.
Thank you.
For sure. So staying active during your breast cancer, all of it was really important.
Right. Right.
So you really have an empathy for people who are going through the process. So what's the difference if you are someone who is in chemo or radiation or have just had, I mean, how do you modify to start when you're dealing with someone who's in the midst of treatment?
Well, let me just try to be brief in an explanation here because there's so much that occurs. There are women that are undergoing radiation, they are undergoing chemo, they could be doing both. There are women who have had a lumpectomy, which is what I had. There are women who have had a mastectomy or a single mastectomy, and they've perhaps had reconstruction. I did not. If they have had a mastectomy, they'll often take the rectus abdominis to rebuild the breasts, or they will take the lats, which are your back muscles, to rebuild the breasts. So we have a variety of things going on with women, and I work with women in all the different phases of either they're in treatment, or they've just finished treatment, or they've just finished surgery, reconstruction surgery.
How do you do that if they're even missing certain muscles, certain areas? How do you,
Right.
I mean, what happens?
Well, we right away have to modify everything for the particular person because, for example, if you're undergoing radiation and chemo at the moment, the fatigue level is quite high. So often things will be done just sitting in the chair.
Why don't you bring that chair over here and we'll talk about that, because that was the other thing I was going to ask you. I mean, most of us have challenges, just we're fatigued anyways.
Right.
And then you're in the middle of a health crisis. How did you get the energy to go do your exercise or go to your class?
For me, I'm not sure. I just
You just
that's
did
just
it.
kind of how I am.
That's Kathy Town.
Right, right. But
Okay,
but anyhow,
so
all right.
let's
So
show
for
this chair.
now, I wanted to explain one other thing too. With the Pilates that we do at Tonic and also at the Victory Center and other places for breast cancer survivors and patients, we can modify it in a chair or on the mat. And we really look very closely at mobility, not just like toning.
Okay.
But because most people undergoing breast cancer have problems like reaching, like if they wanted to make that recipe, it would be very hard for them to reach up into the cupboard to get a bowl.
To get a can, to get all those things.
Right. So when we start with them, we just start with very simple exercises like lifting the shoulders and relaxing the shoulders. Lifting the shoulders and relaxing. And then we'll do things, if they can lift their arms, sometimes they can't. They will have one side that's more affected, like this is my affected side, so it might be harder. So I might have them hold one arm here and one arm here, and we just lower and lift and lower and lift. If they can lift both arms, then we'll do things like this: open and close, and open and close. And it should be obvious, we also could do that if we were laying down on the mat. But the other thing that I have people do, if they can, is I have them sit with tone in the core, meaning the back and the front.
Do your best to support your
Right.
diaphragm when you're sitting.
Well, do your best to have some tone in your front muscles and in your back muscles. But I do also tell them, especially if they're undergoing treatment, if they're too tired, they can just do this.
Right.
I said
right.
I might say something about it, but go ahead and just tell me you're tired.
Because you get it.
Right.
I bet that's very comforting that they understand, you understand.
Well, the women have reported they really appreciate the fact that I'm a survivor.
Absolutely.
So
So the next level then, you're doing some of these movements. What's the next level that you try to get to for your
One of
classes?
may I go down?
Go,
on
you
that?
may, you
Yeah.
may.
One of the next, and I'm jumping very quickly, but one of the next things we do is we have the women, and I've got the micro here, so you have to pretend like I'm laying down completely. I have them try to lift up just a little. Now, right where I am right now is very hard because I'm...
Because you're already inclined
yeah,
up there.
yeah,
okay.
but if I was laying down completely, I have them just lift a little. If they can't, they hold right here and lift just a little. And if they can only get their head up, that is
It's such an
fine.
accomplishment.
Right, it's a huge accomplishment. And then one of the other things I wanted to show that's very important is a bridging action, where they come up with their pelvis, and then very slowly, as you can see me lowering down, and I would be hitting all my vertebrae, and I contract and come up, and then come down. And if they have the strength, we have them lift a foot, and then another
What's
foot.
the benefit of the bridge that you're showing?
Now the bridge makes you work with your whole core, meaning front and back. People always think of the front,
But it's your
well,
back,
it's the
too.
back also. And then when you release, this is critical too. So I'd go one little vertebrae at a time, as if it was
control.
sinking into the sand. Yeah, so that gives them the stretch in the spine, which is very good. And of course, everything we just did on the chair, we can do on the mat. And then there's one other, if we have the time.
You can
there's-
do one more, and then
Okay.
we'll.
This is very good for
Okay.
people because we move really the fourth level for them is the stretch band. And we do things like stepping on the stretch band, and we reach, and this is very difficult for someone who's
got
had
this
reconstruction.
issues. Okay.
Right. Or if they have a port from their chemo. So, but we stretch, and we
You
can
work on
stretch
that.
forward, we can stretch
And there's
back.
nice, no impact. And it's a very
Right.
nice way to start and huge benefit. So if a woman out there, man, is watching, what would be the first steps to finding someone who would understand? I mean, clearly in Toledo, we know how to get a hold of you, but we are all over the place with this
Right.
show. So just a Google search, or how would you recommend? Ask your
well,
doctor?
that's a
or-
very good question. Certainly, you always want to check with your doctor
Okay.
because they do say, Dr. Barone, for example, says 2 weeks after the tubes have been removed because
when
there's
you can start.
drainage, you can start. But there's also a pink ribbon program which has people who teach this all over the country.
Wonderful, wonderful. So,
So-
look for that a little bit
Right.
wherever you are. Really consider Pilates in your not right away
And
during
call
your treatment.
Tonic.
Call
And
Tonic
the
if you're in
Victory Center.
Toledo.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, thank you so much,
thank
Dr.
you.
Kathy, Dr. Pilates, we should call her. And again, I can't say enough about Pilates. And when we come back, I can't say enough about drugstore makeup. This girl loves it. We're going to find out the best stuff to get that won't break the bank.
Thank you.
You're